Good morning to all viewers and subscribers of D&J Drives. Today is Wednesday, the 27th of August, and we are doing a drive from St. Anthony's College in Trinidad to Mount St. Benedict. This is the front of the school here. This is the entrance. This is where the boys congregate and they're dropped off and collected. That's the field out there. St. Anthony's College is one of the top schools, arguably, in Trinidad and Tobago, on the island of Trinidad itself. We're just passing their pool there. Of course, as we always say, we always have a disclaimer. We have no views on which school is the best. As we exit, there's a sign that says St. Anthony's College, established in 1969. It's of a Catholic leaning. Most of these schools in Trinidad and Tobago are church affiliated. This school has a lovely pool and playing field. That's the end of Moncoko Road. Moncoko Road begins Pity Valley and makes its way, well, in Morvant, and makes its way all across Pity Valley. We are now driving through West Moorings. So for those who know Trinidad, West Moorings is a very upscale area, and St. Anthony's College is situated just out there. In fact, this road on the left is St. Anthony's Road. St. Anthony's College is a very peaceful space for education for boys. So we join the highway. This is the Western Main Road. Just to conclude that remark, it's a school for boys because most of the what some people would call the better performing schools are single sex. So St. Anthony's College is all boys. Similar to Queen's Royal College, Trinity College, St. Mary's College, Presentation College, and there are so many others in both Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, then you have the girl equivalent schools. So this is a new roundabout in Trinidad, which is novel. Trinidad isn't known for having many roundabouts. This intersection here that touches West Mall, and it allows you to go from Chaguaramas to Port of Spain, to Diego Martin, Pity Valley, to West Mall. It helps you to do all of that. It also connects you to the Victoria Keys that you can see across there on the left. And that highway that you see there is all new, and this roundabout was placed here to do that connection. So we have West Mall on the right. A very illustrious shopping facility on par with any international mall that you can name. It's very large and comfortable. So we are making our way to Mount St. Benedict, which in itself can be seen almost as a tourist attraction. Catholic church with a rich history, and we'll tell you more about that as we get there. So we're passing the community hospital on the right, we went straight onto that road that veers to the right, that takes you into St. James. So we're coming off of the Western Main Road and starting on the Audrey Jeffers Highway. The Western Main Road would have taken you right into St. James, all the way down to the Queen's Park Oval. And this left turn here would take you through to Mucurapo, just by the famous hot shop roti. We are on the Audrey Jeffers Highway. To the right is the foreshore. We've covered that before in another drive here in Trinidad. So this is just a little sidebar because, as you know, D&J Drives showcases the road network in Barbados. We've done a number of drives in Barbados, and from time to time we do drives in Trinidad, which have turned out to be quite popular with our viewers, many of whom never realized how developed Trinidad is, and some have been shocked that the drives didn't show grenades being thrown across the road and people being shot dead instantly because of the very negative coverage that is associated with this country. But as you will see from this drive, it's a very safe space, and you just have to be aware of your environment, and it is a very well developed area. So to the left is the stadium, to the right is the Marriott Courtyard and Movie Town just ahead. And ahead of us you can see the skyline for the city of Port of Spain. Jeffers Highway, it's named after Audrey Jeffers. She was a prominent Trinidadian social worker and activist, and known for groundbreaking achievements in social work, politics and women's rights. So she made a name for herself, and I believe it was Prime Minister George Chambers who named this highway for her. Can see the similarities of highways named in Barbados and Jamaica, St. Lucia. So to the left of us is Woodbrook, and this is Wrightson Road. Audrey Jeffers Highway leads on to Wrightson Road. Did a drive previously on Woodbrook, and we did a lot of exposure of this road, Wrightson Road, and how it relates to Trabrick Road, and showed the layout of Woodbrook. So today is really about going from west to east, and we started off in West Moorings. West Moorings, as I said, is a very upscale area, and we're going to take you all across we're going to go into Bridgetown, and then we were supposed to go over the Lady Young, going to, not Bridgetown, Port of Spain. I said Bridgetown. I'm so accustomed, thank you, so accustomed saying Bridgetown. We're not in Barbados right now, we're in Trinidad. I just slipped into that. We wanted to go over the Lady Young Highway, so the Lady Young Road. So we're just going to enter Port of Spain. And then make our way to Mount St. Benedict and Currap. Tunapuna. Lots of traffic. Maybe we should pause the video at points pause the recording at points if the traffic backs up too much, so we don't waste our subscribers' time. You see how the vendors sell on the roads in Trinidad, just in the middle of the highway, selling anything. That's just one. Sometimes you have as many as 6-7 people just selling different things all along the highway. This being Wrightson Road. Cornelio Street is to our left, one of the Woodbrook streets. And again, for any details on Woodbrook, please check out our Woodbrook. I think we have a drive called Woodbrook, do we?
City of Port of Spain.
City of Port of Spain, right. Part 1. Okay. So this street here, this is where a lot of people who learn to drive traverse, because the licensing authority is coming up on the right. So this is where people learn to drive at 17 years old, younger than Barbados. You can start driving at 16. Trinidad and Tobago is 17, and this is where they learn to drive. And unfortunately, whereas you can take a Trinidad and Tobago driver's license and obtain a driver's license in Barbados by virtue of having that, you can't come to Trinidad and Tobago with a license from Barbados and other places like that and just get a driver's license here. You have to resit a test and do over the regulations, because it is believed that the roads here are so much more complicated that you have to just resit the whole test. That can spark a whole set of debate, but I think it's a bit annoying to have to come here and do over a whole test and all that. But I do understand, and I would admit that the road network here and the highways are far more complicated and challenging. But still, people leave small islands and go and drive in Canada and the US and make it okay. But of course, it's the same in Canada. You can't just leave the islands and go to Canada and get a license. You have to do over tests and all of that and learn the regulations. So it's the same idea here. We're gonna pause right now. You can gaze at the beautiful skyline of Port of Spain, and we're gonna pause for the traffic light. And we're off. To the left here used to be the power plant, power gen. That's all been demolished, and we understand that's going to be some sort of hotel or something, high-rise apartments. So we did a drive where we covered here on the left, Duke Street. Did you put on the sensitivity? Yeah. Right, that's some sort of a diplomat's car as well. Not a diplomat, but somebody's car. There's a flag on it. So on the right you can see the Hyatt, and the building to the front is a government building. Some of the more beautiful buildings in Port of Spain are actually government buildings. You would think the more beautiful buildings would be private sector driven, but not in Port of Spain. To the left is a high-rise, multi-level car park. I think that's about, what, 12 stories? 12 stories of high-rise parking, because parking is just a major problem in Port of Spain. This is a walkover from the city over to the waterfront, where there's water taxis and the Tobago ferry. To the left you can see the Twin Towers, the first two tall high-rise buildings in Trinidad, I think 22 stories, 22 and 21 if I'm not mistaken. We're still on Wrightson Road, so it's bringing us all into deep Port of Spain, or as some people like to say, spot of pain, as a little joke. Wrightson Road. This is the Central Bank Auditorium to the left. The Central Bank is in one building at the bottom, and they're all government buildings, government offices. There's the Tobago ferry. There's a ferry there, sorry, with vehicles being driven onto it. So people can just drive onto the ferry, take their vehicles to Tobago and continue life as normal, because, as you know, it's one country, two islands, so you just pay I think it's $200, and you just $50. No, it can't be $50 for the ferry. $50 for the ferry, and load your vehicle and go. This is the famous lighthouse. From this lighthouse is when we enter Beetham Highway. Beetham Highway. Not gonna have too much to say on that, because we have a drive where we gave a little talk on the names of these highways. Right now our mission is to get to the monks in Benedict. So for the Catholics viewing this, 50 TT to use the ferry, including for vehicle. I would have thought it was more if you had a vehicle. But anyway, the point is that travel between Trinidad and Tobago is relatively inexpensive. There are some people who live in one island and work in the other, and so on. You also take ferries. You can take water taxis from Port of Spain to San Fernando, so you could just park and go to work, depending on where you work and live. With respect to San Fernando and Port of Spain, or south. So this Beetham Highway is very dangerous. You have to be careful how you use it, because people speed a lot. Huh?
That car's been wrecked.
Oh, did the camera pick that up? A garbage truck on the left, and my son tells me that the vehicle that is being wrecked in Trinidad, if you park badly, you don't get reported like in Barbados. To the left is Beetham Gardens, very low income residential area. You can see, if you park badly your vehicle, you don't get a ticket and you don't get reported, you just get wrecked. And that's an industry here. So apparently a wrecker just passed us, so you may have seen it on a bit earlier on this drive. That's a big feature here. Park badly, go inside and pay some bill and come back out, your vehicle is gone, and then you have to go and pay, I don't know what it costs, must be 250, I don't know how much it is to get back your vehicle. Make sure there's room. just at the end of the Beetham Highway to go into Barataria, so we're not staying on the highway. Sure there's room. There's never time, no? Just dealing with some technicalities with our recorder. So we are exiting the Beetham Highway, but the Beetham Highway continues and goes into other highways we've mentioned before on the way to the airport and to south and to east. So we've just turned off. This is what you would call going to the east. You can see the sign there, Maritime Plaza, 6th Avenue, Juan, Eastern Main Road, Churchill Roosevelt Highway, Beetham, Lady Young Road, Port of Spain. We will say in Trinidad, Juan, but it's San Juan. As you know, Trinidad has a very diverse history in terms of being colonized by the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, the English, and changed hands many times. The French changed hands many times, and therefore has all sorts of interesting names of places. And then there's also the East Indian influence, African influence, and then the influences of the various colonial masters. So you can find streets named French Street, Gattaca Street, Marval Parkway, Majuba Crossroads, and Mon Coco Road. Oh, the list is long. So we make a left here. This is another roundabout. There are so few roundabouts that you just know them. It's not a country of roundabouts, not an island of roundabouts, Trinidad. Just crossed the priority bus route. Terrified of that road. It's a major highway that is for the use of public transport vehicles only. All the big buses and maxi taxis, they use that highway, that road, the priority bus route, PBR. Fast and dangerous driving. There have been many accidents there, and regular vehicles are not permitted to use that road. Of course, some people have special passes, such as government ministers and so on, prime ministers, motorcade, and people with special permission use it. But crossing that road is always nerve-wracking experience. Right ahead is the Leedion Road, and you can see the mountain ahead of us. We're just going to take a pause here because there's a traffic. No, we're moving now. The traffic light just turned green. Don't want to waste the minutes sitting in traffic. Once you're doing a drive in Trinidad, you have to be prepared to chop up the recording because there's always traffic. Always. Oh, and the light is red again, so it's going to take a while for us to get back green to go into Barataria along the eastern main road, and that's Leedion Road ahead of us there, where you see the cars going who have the green light. So we pause for now. Okay, so we make our way. Right ahead of us is Leedion Road. We wanted to bring you from that angle, but we also wanted to show Port of Spain, so we just did it this way. But we've just entered Barataria. So if you look at it, Leedion Road connects Port of Spain to Barataria, and it goes into the mountain, and it gives you a spectacular view of Port of Spain. There's a lookout. It's very beautiful. You can go there day and night, even though many people wouldn't go there at night, but we do it all the time. You just have to be careful and be on the lookout, no problem. There are people selling food out there, playing music and having a good time. The view is absolutely spectacular. A must see. And such a brilliant roadway to connect Port of Spain to Barataria was named in honor of Lady Young. She's the wife of a governor Trinidad. I'm not sure if Trinidad and Tobago were administratively connected then, but or maybe yes it was, because that would have been in the 1930s, 1940s. So the governor's wife, and she was a well-loved personality, and there's also another road named for her somewhere, I think, by the community hospital in Cocorite. So you can check it out if you ever visit Trinidad. I don't think there are many other places that you can go to have a unique experience as that, driving over Leedion Road. I'm not certain whether we ever did a drive over Leedion Road. We did? Which one?
Port of Spain via Leedion Road.
Oh! Okay, we actually have a drive called Port of Spain via Leedion Road.
Yeah.
Okay, so all viewers and subscribers, please check that out. Now there's going to be a lot of traffic on this eastern main road. So what we will do is pause every so often. But this is Barataria, an area in itself in Trinidad. I mean, you have low to medium to high income dwellings. It's very industrialized, lots of shopping, hardware stores. Look on the left here, this home here was there for so many years, right on the main road. People lived and still live. You have big restaurants, churches to the left and the right. I hope you're seeing what I'm saying. The camera is positioned, yes. You can see both sides of the road. Yeah. And this is just how the traffic flows on the eastern main road. Eastern main road runs parallel with the highway. So some people would call this the old road. This is what you used before highway time. But of course the highway has been there for a very long time. So only people of a certain generation would say the old road. It's just the Eastern Main Road, and we're going through Barataria. All of the major banks are represented in Barataria. Well, in all of the areas, going all the way along this Eastern Main Road that can take you as far as you can imagine, even all going up to Arima. We are not going to get that far today. Because we're going to turn off to take you to, look at this old car here. Mount St. Benedict. There's a river there on the left. Not sure if you saw it. You can see all the... If we had time, we could have done drives into all of the various avenues. 5th Avenue, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th. It goes all the way. Barataria is a very big area. We're just on the main road. My favorite thing to see people selling fruit in these little shops. Just love to see the display of fruit. Look to the right and the left. Now if you really take it on, driving can be a bit frustrating. Quite a bit of incivility comes out in the driving in Trinidad, more so than in Tobago. Here we have a red light. Let's stop. So we have to stop again. This is what people do in Trinidad. Just reverse onto the road and just, you know, just reverse casually. You can see the big Carib sign, Big Bear in Trinidad and Tobago, Carib and Stag. Air conditioning places. Furniture store on the right. We did say we were going to do this earlier than midday, but it just didn't work out that way. Christmas vinyl sale. That's the first sign here of Christmas shopping in August. Thousands and thousands of cars, and everybody just reverses onto main roads like it's nobody's business. Sauce Team, this is a big doubles establishment. Sauce, they started in Curep and they've now spread all over. You have branches of Sauce even in Woodbrook, and you can get doubles at all hours of the day now, not only on evenings but on the mornings, mid-morning, early evening, late evening. Well-established brand now, Sauce Doubles. Try to always let out one car per junction, but I just stopped and two came out, so I'll make a pass at that one. Mini Mart on the right, built to the front of a traditional old-time Trinidad type house. And you're gonna come through a bit of a financial. Look at the security on the left here, how much barbed wire and razor fencing there is. That tells you a lot about the level of protection that is required. So the police credit union is to the right, this very nice building here. Of course you're seeing all of the red, white and black decorations because this week is Independence. Independence is August 31st. Trinidad and Tobago became an independent state in 1962. One of the first started in the Caribbean. So this year would be what, 63 years. And then the country became a republic in 1976. So another milestone coming up next year in 2026. 50 years of Republic. Here we can see a member of the military making his way into the police credit union. I believe the police credit union also takes members from the wider military. So there's a little financial district here along the Eastern Main Road in the same Barataria. You have Royal Bank here on the right. I think this one is either being closed down or is closed, but the ATM is still there. You have a very impressive Republic Bank building on the left. Republic Bank is the largest bank in Trinidad and Tobago, and indeed one of the larger banks in the region, operating here in Barbados, in the islands, Eastern Caribbean islands, as far as Ghana in Africa. The branch network in Ghana, Africa, from what I understand, is as large as the branch network here in Trinidad and Tobago. And then you have First Citizens Bank on the right, which is said to be the second largest bank in Trinidad and Tobago, with operations in a few other places including Barbados, where there is First Citizens Barbados Limited, but of course First Citizens Bank Barbados Limited But of course, it's not as large as in Trinidad and Tobago. I think there are maybe 4 or 5 branches, if I'm not mistaken. And the major shareholder in this bank as well as the government. Very long building for citizens has. Of course their colors stand out. It's deep green. If you look to the right, you can see a very nice home there, old time home with lovely plants on the banister there. Long balcony lookout. Another home with 2 tanks to the top. And then you can see Ali's pet shop. So people still live here and have shops and restaurants attached to their homes. Approaching Sour Junction. Nice fruit vendors on the right there. Sour Wesleyan Holiness Church. So then you know we have now left Barataria and into Sour proper. This is proper. Actually, to the right, a bit further up, you can see the Sour post office and fire station, or what used to be. So apart from all of the traffic lights, there are also people who, as you can see ahead there, just reverse onto the main road. And then that causes traffic to stop. Look at that car there that just reversed on. And then there are some vehicles like me that stop to let others out, because if you don't stop to let people out, they can't get out. So you have the traffic lights, and then you have courteous driving, and then discourteous driving. So that is what causes all of this traffic buildup. So this is the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, the Sour Fire Station on the right here. I'm not seeing any fire tenders, but there are vehicles in there, so I assume still works. This is what you would call the Sour Junction. You can go, if you take this road on the left, it takes you all the way into Santa Cruz and Marval, going up into the hill, Saddle Road, going over by Maracas. We did a drive there recently. You can check out those drives in our library. I think we now have over 70. We have over 70 drives started this experiment just over a year ago. Father-son duo documenting the road network of Barbados and dipping into Trinidad every so often, and soon, one day soon, Tobago. There's somebody looking to reverse this little river here. I wish the camera could have rotated as we drove so you could see a little more deeply to the left and the right. Chinese restaurants. So if you came to Trinidad on a little trip and you stayed in Barataria, you literally, unless you wanted to sightsee, you literally could stay in Barataria and do everything that you would need to do in terms of shopping and partying even. Eating. There's everything everywhere in Trinidad. Everything is everywhere. Unless you want to be specific and you want to go to specific places, then you would have to leave your immediate area, but you don't have to. There's just everything everywhere. Aranga's road to the right. Take you back to the highway, because remember this is running parallel with the highway. Look at the name here, Suping Chow. Again, we just passed a vehicle wanting to come out, but we normally would do, but for the sake of this drive, we're trying to manage the minutes. It's a bit discourteous, but we try our best. And the thing is, when you go to let out one vehicle, then the vehicle behind it pushes its way out, and you always end up with a problem. Sometimes more than two vehicles push their way out. So when you hear people say that they come from Sawa, this is what they're talking about. Good thing about it is that in the east you tend to find better bargains than in town or Port of Spain. So some people leave the west and leave Port of Spain to come into the east to shop because they say it's cheaper, better deals. Mount Lambert. Mount Lambert is not a mountain, it's just the name of an area in the east. Center lane, Monday to Friday, this way 2 to 9 and 5 to 2 the other way. I find that so confusing. So this road here has 3 lanes, but the use of the center lane changes direction depending on the time of day, Monday to Friday. It's very confusing. This vehicle here, PCS 4667, a brown vehicle, blowing the horn as soon as the light has changed. Blowing the horn for me to move. Where is he right now? Where is he? Let's let this vehicle through. This is just craziness here with this road here. You have to know where to look for that sign to see the time to know which direction that center lane goes. And to the right you could see somebody selling doubles. And this is what, 1:45 in the afternoon. The temperature is now 31 degrees. 32 degrees, and it is the 27th of August 2025, midday in Trinidad, an island in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, a twin island state, making our way from the west to the east. West Moorings, which is just next door to Goodwood Park. Very upscale western development all the way across the eastern main road to the Mount St. Benedict. A very peaceful, large, religious setting where there's a big church up in the mountain, very green area, and the monks are up there. They established this facility, this church, and instructional area as well. People go up there to pray. Some people have experienced miracles up there, or from praying up there. And there's just regular church, and a lot of priests live up there. And it's a tourist attraction, as we said earlier. Gives you a lovely lookout going down south and east Trinidad. Taking you there today. There's a lot of impatience on the road. And the thing is, there's no need for the impatience, because when you do certain things, you create an accident and then you lose more time. And then apart from dealing with the accident itself, then you have to have the inconvenience of having the vehicle repaired and dealing with that and getting it back and If it wasn't done correctly, it has to go back in again, and then you have a vehicle, you have to rent one. So why go through all of that? Why not just take your time? You know, just be patient. Even if you're late for something, you can't be unlate by speeding or putting people's lives at risk. So just take your time, you know, but you don't have to be wild and violent on the road. That's the unfortunate thing. Wingao restaurant, Chinese restaurant and bar. One thing you will see all over Trinidad, more so than in Tobago, is Chinese restaurants everywhere. And the Chinese food is world class. Not sort of make-believe Chinese food, real Chinese food, really nice stuff, high quality. Some of them are actually homegrown or third and fourth generation Trinidadian, but there are some of them who are here from China itself. Of course, you know, being in Trinidad, Chinese food also takes a twist to fit into the sort of Trinidad and Tobago culture. So the Chinese food is somewhat peculiar to the country. Really some good stuff. Over to the right is the Carib Brewery in Charflair. Brewery, Trinidad and Tobago. Carib, everybody knows about Carib. I don't think the camera picked it up here. This area is Charflair. Champsfleurs. And did we pass Whitco as yet? Back in the day, Whitco used to be one of the biggest companies in the region, West Indian Tobacco Company Limited. We passed it. Whitco, to the left, this area here. And I do remember Mr. Audrey Walker, who was the CEO of Whitco, a Barbadian-born gentleman and scholar, came to Trinidad to study agriculture and ended up making his career here. Then he was the head of Whitco. Cigarette was king. Yeah, we did pass it on the left, but Whitco, back in the day, you would never have missed it because the signage would have been so much more prominent. Mr. Audley Walker, the late Audley Walker, he was actually the honorary consul from Barbados to Trinidad and Tobago, and he was the head of one of the biggest companies in the country, and there was never a problem about that. In some islands, people take great exception when someone who's not from there by birth heads companies, but in this country you don't tend to find that to that extent. Here's the man selling the nice and roasted nuts and salt and sweet. Nice nuts. Thing with these people is that the nuts remain warm because they store them in these warmers. So when you buy the nuts while making your way home, you're getting a nice warm snack. To the right is the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex.
The sign said we're into the corner now.
here in the middle lane pointing the other way, but you don't know which way to use that middle lane for this part of the road. I don't know why they don't just expand the road and put four lanes. But this is not a highway, this is just a main road. On the right is the Wassa Water and Sewerage Authority. Wassa. Mr. Keith Roy Halliday, who was a former GM of the BWA in Barbados, the Barbados Water Authority. He left there to come here to be the CEO of Wassa. And then he just recently parted company with them. So this is where Wassa headquarters are. And to the left, this road takes you up into St. Joseph. This whole area here is St. Joseph. There's a Presbyterian church and a cemetery to the left and to the right. Directions changing depending on the hours of the day. Sorry, I can't help. To the deep right, look at the intricate architecture there on that mosque. I hope the camera picked it up. Did it? No? Oh. That's the beauty of Trinidad and Tobago. You have Catholic churches, Anglican churches, Hindu temple, you have mosques, and there are so many more. Kingdom halls, whatever else, assemblies, religious assemblies. There are so many creeds and races here. And as per the national anthem, every creed and race finds an equal place. Whether that is more theoretical than practical, I don't know. But I know that there's a lot of religious tolerance in this space. Because when you go to school or you grow up in an area, chances are the person sitting next to you or living opposite from you is not going to be of the same religious or ethnic persuasion as you, and you just learn to live with each other. Of course, sometimes at election times and so on, little tensions may surface, and they may be race-based as well. But generally, people in these parts just live, who's Chinese, they have some people that they call them Chinyan, because there's a Chinese and India, a child of a Chinese and Indian, such as former Prime Minister Stuart Young. You have French Creole and Coco Payal and all sorts of mixed up things that people just live together, mixed up. And you can, at every corner you can just see different denominations of churches. We are in St. Augustine, Trinidad, and it is 1 p.m. on the 27th of August, and we are making our way along the eastern main road, and we are passing a plaza in St. Augustine where you can get pharmacies, grocery stores. Well, it's now Massey. It used to be called Hilo, but Massey stores, supermarket. You have Mario's Pizza. I'm a big fan of Mario's Pizza. But of course, as the years passed, fancier pizza places have surfaced. So now Trinidadians, say, oh, you still like Mario's, but I love my Mario's. And if you looked at the logo for the Mario's Pizza, you'll see similarity to the logo to the Chefette brand. Not the logo, but the man in the logo. Very similar. Of course, Chefette was formed in Barbados by Sir Assad Halout. He's still alive, and he's originally from Trinidad, but of course they have built a big empire in Barbados, and Chefette is the leading fast food chain. They do a lot of charity work in the country. Very, very socially responsible corporate citizen, and they've made quite a name for themselves. So I always link Chefette to Mario's, even though there is no link, but just because of the resemblance of the men in their logos. This right turn here, the Lakshmi Girls Hindu College to the left, right opposite is the back entrance to UWI, and you can see the sign UWI shaped out in that hedge. We passed it quickly, but that's not a junction where you could have slowed down. But all behind here is, you just find UWI students who live on this side. The proper UWI is to the right. The Hewarding Law School would be to the left. So this is Dean Street approaching here. You'll routinely see law students and university students walking all out here if they come to catch a maxi taxi. The maxi taxis are color coded based on their location. So you have yellows and greens and reds, brown, blue in Tobago. Look, there's a red here because this is the red area. This man wearing his mask on. COVID 2.0. So we are transitioning journeying out of St. Augustine area. Look, there's a big super farm coming up on the left. Popular drugstore with all sorts of things. It's like a store but a drugstore. Mini supermarket if you like. Super farm. Austin Street, big private hospital on the left, St. Augustine Private Hospital. Medical care in Trinidad and Tobago is mainly private. It's very expensive to get sick here, and but of course you get the best care if you have insurance and money. But there's no end of public health care, no end. I mean, there are many hospitals, over 13. They built 13 hospitals in the last 10 years, or 9 hospitals in the last 10 years. There are many hospitals in South, North, Tobago, Arima, everywhere. 2 in Tobago. But some people prefer private health care, and there are many private hospitals. So you don't necessarily have to fly off to Miami and all those places, even though some people still do, including Cuba. But you can get the best health care here in Trinidad. People with certain types of emergencies in Tobago still has reasonable health care. Police doing something on the road, so that's what causing this little bit. Oh, they fixing a hole on the road, but there's another facility here. So we are making our way. We are in Tunapuna now. A little further down there's a sign that says welcome to Tunapuna, but we are turning off on St. John Street, St. John Road. And if you look up in the mountain there, is the camera picking it up? Yeah, that's where we're going. That's the mount. So that's a mountain ahead of us, or would you call that a hill?
No, that's a mountain.
Okay, so in the mountain, about halfway up, you can see prominent building. That's the Mount St. Benedict. This is the purpose of today's drive. So to the left is still St. Augustine.